Call this special board meeting of USD 350 Board of Education to order. Welcome visitors, thank you for coming. First up, we have the school operations plan changes. We'll open it up if you guys want to give your opinions, but we'd like to keep it somewhat brief. We know you guys got to get to school, so if you have somebody that wants to talk. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I can just put you on speakerphone. Okay, that's fine.
Debbie's here on speakerphone.
Okay. Morning, Debbie.
Good morning.
Okay. Open up for discussion.
You want me to just give a quick recap here of our current policy is based on KDHE guidance and from CDC. In our plan, if someone is within 6 feet of a positive case for 10 minutes or more, they're identified as a close contact. There is no recognition of whether someone is wearing a mask or not. In my mind, we're kind of on a continuum here that quarantine is needed to stop the spread of the virus. And on the other end of that, quarantine is bad for people. Some would maybe say that's a false narrative, that it's bad for people. In my mind, that means that we're making stuff up to prove a point. That's not a false narrative at all. It's not good for people to be locked away in their house for weeks at a time. These young ladies and all the students in our school are social people. Some people handle it better than others, but it's not a good thing, but it's necessary at some point. And right now we're all the way to this side that we quarantine everybody. And that there's a balance there where it's necessary, but is it always necessary? And obviously we need to limit the spread of the virus. We're doing well here. We want to keep doing well. Why are we doing well around here? Because we're doing things right. We're wearing the masks. We're staying apart. Is the quarantine helping stop the spread of the virus? I'm sure in certain cases it is. In St. John, out of all of the students that we've quarantined, 0 have gotten sick because of spread in the school. Obviously that may change. Things may get worse as we go. Recognize that. But we've quarantined, I don't know, 40 or 50 students.
Something like that, yeah.
And 0. Maxville, I don't know how many they've quarantined. 0 have tested positive or gotten sick because of spread in the school district. Great Bend has quarantined almost 600 kids this school year. 0 have gotten sick from the spread. In Larned, over 150 kids they've quarantined. 0 have gotten sick from spread at the school. That tells me we're doing things right around here to limit the spread, and quarantine is not the thing that's making the difference. Obviously it needs to be part of what we're doing, but we need to change what we're doing, in my opinion, and my recommendation is what we've talked about as a district leadership team. Any decision we make is going away from the guidance from KDHE. There is no guidance that says this distance, this time frame if you're wearing masks. There is nothing. So whatever we do, we're going away from that guidance. School districts across this state, counties across this state are talking about this very same thing. Right now, it's a conversation everywhere. Everybody thinks we need to, a lot of the school districts and a lot of the counties think we have to do something different. So the recommended policy, what the county commission, who operates as our county health board, is comfortable with, the wording on the back of your agenda, which says a close contact is within 6 feet for 10 minutes or more, or if they've been exposed to secretions, been sneezed on or coughed on. And the change in the policy would say, if the individual is properly wearing a face covering, then he or she will be identified as a close contact if they're within 3 feet of the case for 90 minutes or more. We may have to change this, we may eliminate this if things get worse. Obviously, with everything we're doing with this virus, things may change, we may need to make adjustments. Again, any change we make is going away from the guidance from KDHE. So the only recommendation I could make that's not something we just decided, okay, we have to do something, let's say 3 feet for 90 minutes. Or should we say 7 feet for 11 minutes? I don't know what that number is. The only recommendation I could make that's not somewhat arbitrary, do the masks work or do they not work? Well, all the medical guidance is telling us that masks work. Based on that, the only wording that I can come up with for a recommendation for you to act on, other than what I just told you, would be if an individual is properly wearing a face covering, then he or she will not be identified as a close contact, period. No reference to any time or distance. If they're wearing a face covering, they're not identified as a close contact. That's based on medical guidance from across the board. Masks work. If they work, then that's the difference. So my recommendation would be to go with what's on the back, because we've talked about that with the county commission. The second option would be what I just gave you, no reference to any time or distance.
Thanks, Josh. Any thoughts, opinions?
Just up to the teacher who decides who, I mean, if they were wearing a mask properly or it was on long enough, or
Say that again.
who decides how, if the mask's been wearing properly?
I think the administration would have to. We need to solidify our procedures about that. We don't want the teachers to be in a position where if we have a case that we're going to the teachers to say, okay, who's not wearing their mask right? And then the families are upset with the teachers. I think what we've talked about is, if you're not wearing your mask properly, go to the office, and we'll document it there. And then we have documentation of that in the office, that we're not wearing them right, we're choosing to not abide by the rules, and you fall under the 6 feet for 10 minutes.
Other questions?
Part of the problem that I have with that is that we have teachers who will not wear their masks, and I don't know that they're necessarily going to enforce that because they personally don't follow it. Hello?
Yeah. Yep.
That's the first I've heard of that, Debbie. I guess if that is the case, that disappoints me. And I would hope that what this board has pretty much adopted, that the teachers follow through with that. But that is the first I've heard of that.
With this change in policy, I think as a district, we need to reinforce, revisit the wearing of the masks, and I guess have a tougher stance on that across the board.
And to that, I would say that, at the beginning, there were some teachers that forgot to put their masks up or didn't wear them all the time, maybe when they should have, but I think we've worked through that, and I think everybody's a lot better now than they were before, so. And we'll continue to do that with the students and the staff.
And our policy does say, if we can social distance, masks are not required at that point. If we can stay apart, we don't have to. We may need to revisit some of that in a classroom, in a closed environment, even though we're 6 feet apart, the classroom's pretty full, we're not making an exception in that case. But if we've got a class of 3 kids and we go to the gym and spread out, or go outside, there still needs to be times, and we've talked about this numerous times, that we need to get the darn thing off for a bit, because it's miserable.
Okay. Other thoughts, questions?
Excuse me. I visited with Josh yesterday about this. I'm still not convinced, excuse me, that we need to change what we're doing. Although I agree with if they're wearing a mask, it should be different than if they're not wearing a mask as far as content. But the numbers appear to be somewhat arbitrary for me, and I would like for us to have gotten a little bit more guidance from KBHE or from medical professionals about what would make a safe distance. I'm seeing spikes in the rest of the state, and I guess I'm erring on the side of caution. What we're doing is effective, where most people are seeing major spikes, especially as we get into another flu season. I'm just not ready for us to loosen it and take that chance. I'm still not convinced that we need to loosen our stance at this point.
Okay, thanks, Debbie.
Part of this too is incentive for us to wear the masks. If we keep doing what we're doing, there's no difference between wearing a mask and not wearing a mask. We're going to be hard pressed to keep people in the masks. Are the masks working? I think they are. I'm not a medical professional, but it seems like they are. Are the quarantines working? 0 cases. Again, so far, the quarantines are not what's affecting it. The masks are. We incentivize the wearing of the masks. As an example, our volleyball team wore their masks at the tournament this weekend. Is it fair to say, ladies, those of you that were there, was that driven by you, or did somebody tell you to do that?
It was a team decision.
A team decision. So the team decided we're going to wear masks because they heard discussion of if we wear masks, maybe we don't have to quarantine. They took it upon themselves. That's a great example of how this incentivizes doing things right with the masks. That's an example of that. This has nothing to do with sports or band or comic book club. It's about these kids in the classroom and in every activity. But that's a good example of how this would incentivize that. If we're wearing the masks, maybe we don't have to quarantine. One thing I didn't mention, I sent this email to you all this morning. It was pretty early, I think, but I didn't get it till late last night. But you have a printed copy here of the comments from the teachers. I know some of you had time to read it this morning already, but
Josh, were some of these comments, I didn't get to read them all. I've read about half of them, but were some of these comments from 1 or 2 teachers, or are they from, excuse me, 19 teachers here, or?
an email was sent to all the teachers asking for feedback. From Mrs. Benke sent out an email asking for feedback from all of the teachers yesterday. And that's what the responses that she got.
Okay. So these could be multiple responses?
Yes.
From one individual or two?
Well, I think a lot of teachers did respond.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many.
Just a thought on the time, when we said we quarantined that many people and Great Bend quarantined that many people, they had been in close contact for an hour in class. You know, so going for 90 minutes, I think is within reason. It's, I would have still quarantined our tennis team who traveled all the way to Ashland in a closed suburban probably, in this case. So it's not taking quarantine completely away. It's just something we're going to revisit.
I'll make a motion to accept our administrator's recommendation.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the school operations plan changes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Okay. We get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded and we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you for coming in.